Hey, what's up everybody? Thanks for stopping by. I'm starting a new series on my channel called My Top 5, where I will share the top 5 comics in my personal collection, covering a variety of topics of conversation. Now to my first episode. These are my top 5 comics, Wolverine versus Sabretooth. Wolverine and Sabretooth have a long and storied history, which has always been a joy to read. They're one of my favorite ongoing feuds and rivalries in comic books. Like all rivalries, they gotta start somewhere. So let's start with number 1. Number 1, Power Pack 27. This was released in December 1986. This is the first appearance of Wolverine vs. Sabretooth on a comic book cover. This is part of the Mutant Massacre storyline. Wolverine and Sabretooth do not meet in the comic book, but Wolverine does tell the Power Pack he's looking for Sabretooth. Number 2, we have XMen 212. This is also released in December 1986. This is the first meeting between Wolverine and Sabretooth in the comic book. So this also picks up right after Power Pack 27, so it's still part of the Mutant Massacre storyline. There's a little continuity error here. In the Power Pack 27, Wolverine is expecting to find Sabretooth, but here, he's surprised and he's completely caught off guard. The fight ends with Wolverine destroying a wall to create some space between him and Sabretooth in order to rescue a Morlock named Healer. Also worth mentioning, this issue has the first mention of Mr. Sinister. Number 3, this is probably my favorite in the group. This was released in July 1989. There are a few big takeaways with this comic book. First, this is a classic fight, even brought to life with the movie X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's really brutal. Wolverine is completely outmatched. The fight ends after Wolverine using the last bit of energy that he has to tackle Sabretooth off of a mountain. Sabretooth walks away, leaving Wolverine unconscious and in the snow. Second, this is when we learn Sabretooth hunts down Wolverine every year on his birthday, usually leaving a trail of dead bodies along the way. Third, this is the first appearance and death of Silver Fox. Her character has an interesting history that I plan on exploring with a quick video sometime down the line. Lastly, I read an article regarding Chris Claremont and his co-creation of Sabretooth. There's an interesting part that reads something along the lines of, the Sabretooth we read in this comic is the real Sabretooth. This version is the one Chris Claremont always envisioned. So much so, he considers this to be Sabretooth's real first appearance. Yet he's willing to make an exception for Iron Fist 14 for obvious reasons. So, with Chris saying that, that implies that all the other appearances up to this point must be clones. So, anyway, the article, it's a good read, but since I couldn't find an interview of Chris Claremont discussing this, I'll go ahead and attach a link to the article in the description. Alright, number 4, we have Wolverine 41. This was released July 1991. It's a really cool fight between these guys, but what makes this a significant comic book for me was where Sabretooth reveals he was in fact Wolverine's dad. As a kid reading this blew my mind. It just made sense. Now, of course, it didn't stick. 2 issues later, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. tells Wolverine, yeah, Sabretooth is not your dad, after running some blood tests. While there is a comic book run outside of the main continuity, where he is Wolverine's dad, he just isn't here. Although in the same article that I've linked, Chris Claremont is said to have always intended to have Sabretooth be Wolverine's dad, but they just couldn't pull the trigger on it. But funny enough, the timeline I mentioned earlier where he is Wolverine's father, that was actually written by Chris Claremont. So it's really funny, right? Because he does get a chance to make Sabretooth Wolverine's dad, just not in the main continuity. So, on further note, this comic book gives us another flashback to Silver Fox's death. Last but not least of my top 5 battles between Wolverine and Sabretooth, we get the death of Sabretooth. This is in Wolverine 55. Now, I say death with air quotes, right? This is at the hands of Wolverine and his trusty Muramasa blade. We later learn this was never the real Sabretooth, it was just a clone. Still, Wolverine doesn't know this. He was fed up with Sabretooth, and this fight It was a long one, expanding in many places, requiring several comic books, all leading up to here. Once again, we're forced to see more flashbacks of Sabretooth's brutality, not just murdering Silver Fox, but other significant others in Wolverine's life as well. Wolverine got the go-ahead from Cyclops and Emma Frost to finally kill Sabretooth using the Muramasa Blade. But if you don't know, the Muramasa Blade has the power to stymie any healing factor. So there's a cool moment when Wolverine cuts off Sabretooth's arm, and Sabretooth picks it back up to attach it, but it just falls right off. So Sabretooth knows this is it, right? He even tells Wolverine, do it, and you can just see the anguish in him. Like, finally, let's end this. Then Wolverine proceeds by cutting off his head. So this is a really cool panel showing that. Now, did he kill the real Sabretooth? Nope. But it was pretty cool to see Wolverine kill off a clone, thinking he was the real Sabretooth. Anyway, that's pretty awesome. So that's all I got. These are my top 5 Wolverine versus Sabretooth battles in my collection. You got any in your collection that you think I should read? Let me know in the comments. And as always, thanks for hanging out.